Raj, can you tell me the origin story of KeepFit Kingdom and specifically what motivated you to found this brand with a pretty high ambition? 1 billion people at age 100, right?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Patrick, for having me. I'd have to kind of give you the context of this story of how it all came about. I have to take you a little bit into my past. It's a little origin backstory. Is that okay?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. So it all started when I was 3 years old. My mother takes me to nursery school or kindergarten, say in America, but we enroll, look at the playground, look at the classrooms, and then we end up in the library. And the first 2 books I ever pick off any bookshelf in my life, in this lifetime, was one book about dinosaurs and one book about planets. And for whatever reason, Patrick, these images remain so sharply embedded in my mind, in my memory, that they kind of impacted me more than my entire schooling education, which is kind of like a blessing in disguise because the themes that were contained in these images were so important to me and it got me curious for even until now. So the first one, dinosaurs. Okay, how do dinosaurs evolve? How do you become, go from an alligator to a dog to a cat to a bird and then a dolphin and an elephant and higher forms of sentient life? They can communicate better. They got more of a cooperative mentality. They work together, right? Human beings, you think, okay, well, how do human beings evolve their brains then? Can they do that? And of course they can, with consistency, with the right methodologies and technology and neuroscience, they can evolve their brains to be far more capable. As you know, they keep reporting that we only use 10% of our brain. So where is that 90% of hidden potential then? All right. So that was the dinosaur thing and the evolutionary aspect. The other aspect was the planets. Like, how do these incredible orbs of energy, which are, you've got Jupiter spinning at 47,000 kilometers per hour, right? You can fit 1,300 planet Earths inside it, right? It's so huge. And yet it spins so fast. So I started to think about these planetary energies. What are they doing? How do they affect one another? And how do they impact human beings? So then it wasn't until later that I began to realize more and more of the finer art and science of how these natural energies coexist and interrelate. Then I was also, as a 3-year-old, I was also wondering on Mars, why do you have an empty planet? Like you could go on NASA now on YouTube channel and you see they have the rover, robots looking around Mars, and you see it's rocky red ground, red sky, but no plants, no water, no plants, no dinosaur bones or any bones of any kind. And I'm thinking to myself, why is there an empty planet next to us with nothing on it, yet Earth is full of life? Can't get away from it from top to toe. You've got birds in the sky, you've got whales and fish in the sea, you've got 8 billion humans on the planet Earth, plus all the fruit and veg and gems and gold and everything here. It's just a strange, contrast, having nothing there and having everything here. So these were the kind of questions that boggled my little 3-year-old brain, if that gives you a bit of context.
Yeah, and I guess that didn't immediately lead to anything, right? But then eventually they maybe somehow kind of were stuck in your mind as you were growing up. What happened then once you were starting to grow up? Did you already have a clear direction of what you wanted to become as a teenager?
Well, not necessarily. I was always interested in health and fitness, and the kind of evolutionary thing. It kind of went over into anatomy, physiology, why the body works the way it does, how certain people recover quickly. Some people have great strength. Some people have no strength. Some people are healthy and well for 100 years, and some have hardly any health and they're bedbound. So all these contrasts really amazed me. So I studied it from that kind of philosophical inquiry to then using, the science of anatomy, physiology, nutrition, supplementation. So I was in the gym a lot. I did a lot of martial arts, gymnastics, and then eventually that evolved into documenting and putting it onto the blog called KeepFitKingdom.com. 2,500 articles covering everything from muscular development to flexibility to yoga postures for the elderly to nutrition, optimum sleep, consistency in workouts, all those kinds of different areas we cover in a lot of detail. And it's still a great passion even now. As long as we have a human body, we should investigate like how to make the most of it.
Yeah, beautiful. And how did breathing start playing a bigger role? Because it sounds like that's been quite a major part of the work you do currently as a coach as well. How did that came into being in as part of the, building the base of articles for human longevity?
Well, there's again a kind of colorful twist to the story, if you like. When I was 18, my mother takes me to India for the first time. And I know it sounds like a, kind of bombastic, out there story out of the box, but it happened to me, and I have to just tell it in order to contextualize everything. I was quite an obnoxious, bratty teenager when you're 18. You think you know a lot, and you actually don't, because you've just read some school books. So I go to India, and I meet what's called an avatar. So most people are familiar with the word avatar from James Cameron's film Avatar, or Netflix Avatar Last Airbender, with all the shape shifting of the elements, the fire, water, air, fire, like. And I thought, before going to India, I thought all of that was just silly nonsense, like woo-woo stuff, until I go to India and I meet a full-blown real-life avatar. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? He knew everything about me. He knew why I picked up those 2 books as a 3-year-old in the kindergarten. He knew everything about me. And he said that, beings like us, these super powerful beings like Buddha, like Christ and so on, don't be overwhelmed by their knowledge. It's natural for them. They know everything about everyone. Right. And I was blown away because in my schooling, I had nothing to prepare me for this. And he said to me, I know why you're here. I'm the one who brought you here. And I'm like, what? This is just madness. Am I dreaming or what? What is going on here? So he says, I know why you're here. I'm the one who brought you here. I'm going to tell you what you have to do in life. You don't know what happens when you die. You don't know how this earth was made. You don't know anything, son. He said son very affectionately. And I was like, I was just dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say, but my ego felt very offended. I felt like I'd just been punched flat. He said, you've got to be humble, son. You got to learn and you got to listen. So from then, I went into monk mode for 10 years. Right. So I went into monk mode. I left the TV behind, the cinema, the newspapers. I left all that behind. And for 10 years, I went into monk mode, studying the most esoteric, Vedantic, and Buddhist scriptures you could find. Studied astrology. I went deeper into anatomy, deeper into the causative factors of what makes a human being different, and so on. And then I started studying the breath, how the dynamics of breath and consciousness and energy are so interwoven. And then I realized that we weren't taught this from the beginning of life in school. Like, we should have been taught this then. But then I realized that it could be a reason why they don't want you to know this. Right? Because if you do, you're going to be able to unlock a lot of power and potential that you never knew you had. So that's what I started doing. I started understanding a bit more of the dynamics of breath and consciousness and energy. Because end of the day, all the neuroscience is bearing this out. If you look at quantum physics, Joe Dispenza, all these guys, they're bearing this very fact out, that there's only 2 things that exist in the cosmos. One is energy and one is consciousness. These are the only 2 things that exist. Primarily, everything else is built on that. So when I started studying the breath, I realized that I could boost my immune system, my nervous system, and not get sick. I haven't been sick for 23 years. I haven't taken medicine or seen a doctor or been to a hospital, had an MRI or an X-ray or an ultrasound for 23 years. And people ask me, how do you do that? I never used to get a cold, nor a migraine, nor a headache. You're always on the go, full of energy, always laughing, having fun. I'm saying it's because of this electromagnetic energy. which you can channel through your brain, through your breath. So I hope that helps. I know it's a bit of a long story, but I hope it gives context.
No, it's appreciated. Yeah. Maybe were you in India for those 10 years? Or did you go back to the UK at that stage? Just curious about the
No, I was in the
details.
UK and I went into monk,
Got
which was even harder because no one understood why I was doing it.
Yeah.
And they're like, why don't you hang out with your friends anymore? Why don't you go to the cinema? Why don't you go on holiday? I said, there's something that
Just
Avatar
studying.
did. Yeah. That just made me say, look, I've got to focus. I've got to dedicate. So, yeah.
What about them if you think about someone who is intrigued by what you just mentioned, like, hey, I'd like to kind of move towards that, like to understand what breathing could do to me around my immune system, the nervous system and so forth. Like, where do you find is a good place to start when you have a new person coming to you? Raj, what's happening here? Tell me, where do you start with them? What's the first step?
First step, all depends in that first conversation. I always very good at, we do a lot of interviews all the time and questionnaires and things. So we find out what their lifestyle is. So what does your current day look like? How much do you do much exercise or no? What kind of diet do you have? Is it meat-based? Is it plant-based? We find that those on plant-based diets are a lot quicker. They get quicker results because there's less interference with the digestive system, which is huge. So I always ask questions about diet, exercise, level of stress in either your workplace or at home. Now, are there any problems that are stagnating your energy? It could be an estranged spouse or a kid or some other addiction or something like that. Alcohol is a big issue. Interpersonal relationships. I studied, and I'm also a relationships coach for women for the last 16 and a half years now. So I know that even though on the surface they may look good, everything may look fine, internally their energy is stagnant because they've got some emotional block or emotional relationship problem that's causing havoc in their personal life. So we're very good at asking the right questions to really understand where they're at. And then we often prescribe simple breathing methods, similar to Wim Hof, to get things moving. And then normally within 2 to 4 weeks, if they follow it daily, we start to notice some alleviation of symptoms, less stress, a bit more relief. And then if they really want to go deep, we start working with them for a month, 2 months, 3 months to reverse the inflammatory processes of pain they might have.
Wonderful. Why don't we take a case example and then see what would be a protocol for that type of person? Let's imagine we have, I don't know, like a 40-year-old-ish guy who's like in a pretty stressful job. Maybe things are okay at home, nothing, let's say, that's causing extra stress, but they can feel this kind of boundary between work and family life being difficult. They probably eat just omnivore, a bit of everything. Maybe many times not the best food from a nutritional perspective, but like in a rush, maybe skip breakfast, lunch. And they basically come to you like, look, I feel that there's like constant anxiety in my life. They've been sick once in a while, and they would love to get, basically they what to that is a state where they have this like ease and control of their system. And of course, ideally also like feel healthy long down in decades to come.
Mm.
Based on what I just mentioned, what comes to mind is maybe a good kind of daily habit or routine to build for that person?
That's a great question. And it's very typical of what we see, pretty much daily. So first, I always ask the question, what are you trying to do in life? What do you want to do? What's your dream? Right? Are you happy? Because from there, we know that if you're thinking positive towards something you'd like to do or something you enjoy doing, a lot of problems seem to magically disappear. Or, you're on the trajectory whereby things make you happier rather than, energize you rather than deplete your energy or drain your energy. So for us, it's all about energy. It's all about understanding where the energy is going. And we would say, if they smoke or drink, things like this, they've got to look at that carefully. If you can try to reduce that, great. If you can give it up, even better, even better. Because then you're going to have more mental bandwidth and emotional bandwidth to use that energy for more constructive things. So we would walk them through simple breathing exercises and watch them carefully for at least 7 to 14 to 21 days, and then see if they're getting an alleviation of symptoms, they will experience parasympathetic reset. So a lot of people who are stressed out, they're like go, 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 cortisol, fear, adrenaline, and so on. The problem is they don't know how to regularly dial it back into the parasympathetic nervous system for rest, digest, deep healing of trauma, stress, injury, surgery, whatever. So we use the 3-3 method that we specialize in to get them quickly into the parasympathetic nervous side. And people ask us often, how come this works so quickly? We feel really well after like 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. And I explain to them the science. The science is, as you know, Patrick, the brain has a lot of powerful hormones in it. And you've got endorphins, which alleviate inflammation and pain. You've got serotonin and dopamine, which are happy, feel-good hormones. You've also got what's called anandamide. Have you come across that?
No.
No. Anandamide, it comes from a Sanskrit word bliss. Ananda means bliss, mide, molecule. So we all have a bliss molecule in our brain. So you ask yourself the question, why would we have a bliss molecule in our brain if we were not designed to be happy? Right? So we're all designed to be happy as humans. Also, the 3-3 activates the vagus nerve, which is a very important part of the parasympathetic nervous system to rest, relax, deep sleep, and so on. This is what we do to help reset a person's nervous system, get them feeling good, get them feeling calm in flow state. Interestingly enough, when you're in flow state, everything tends to go smoothly or smoother. Relationships tend to go smoother. You tend to enjoy your work a bit more because you get creative, you get new ideas, new insights. And it's all because you're releasing this cascade of neurochemicals in the brain in a leveraged effect. That's why it has such a big impact.
Would you be open, Raj, to running that exercise with me?
Yeah, sure.
Should we do it for 1 minute?
Do you do any breathing method yourself?
Mostly just throughout the day, I do like that 6-ish second in, 6 out, just the resonance type of breathing. And then once in a while, I do those kind of oxygen advantage style breath holds when I'm walking, for example, just to train up the CO2 tolerance.
Okay.
But those are the 2 main ones that I do kind of daily, basically.
Okay. And do you find those work best for you? Or they work well for you?
I really like the resonance one that really gets me to a balanced state. Whether I want to go upwards, downwards in regulation, I find it works really well. And then in the mornings, but I forgot to say, I do like the fire breathing style to activate the nervous system in the morning, which I usually go outdoors, even if it's cold, to do it. So that I find, each one suited to the situation that I'm doing it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So this one, we first check in with each person, say on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel right now? So just check in. 1 to 10. 1 is feeling terrible, 10 is amazing. What would you say you feel right?
8.
8. Okay, excellent. Okay. Now we also check the nostril flow, and we do that by blocking the right nostril first and breathing in and out of the left one. And then we switch over, block the left one, breathe in and out. Okay. And would you say what's the ratio? 50-50 or 60-40 or 70-30? What would you say, Rob?
About 60-40 in favor of the left one was easier.
60-40. Okay. That's pretty common. Okay. So the 3-3, in a snapshot, just to keep it nice, short, compact session here. It's 3 short inhales through the nose like this, and then 3 exhales through the mouth with an elongated exhalation on the third one. So it's like this. So sniff, sniff, sniff. Open the mouth a little bit more, Patrick, so the ha comes from the back of the throat. Activate the vagus nerves. But a little slower, Nice and relaxed. You got it. You got it. Okay, we'll do it for a minute together. And for this minute, keep the eyes closed. Yeah? And get into a gentle rhythm. That's the key. 3, 2, 1, and go. A little slower, a little slower. Open the mouth a little bit more. Once more. Stop there. Keep your eyes closed. Just relax. Just relax and observe what's happening within. Just relax. And keeping your eyes closed, Patrick, tell me what you notice and how you feel.
There's a sense of warmth, much more than before. I can feel like a bit of tingling in various places, probably oxygenation in the body. Alertness.
Where did you feel the warmth?
Really all the way until the peripherals, like the fingers, the legs, everywhere. Maybe even most in the torso area.
And the tingling?
In legs, feet, a little bit hands. Yeah, I think there's also this, even though it's kind of activating to some extent, there's also a sense of like calmness at the same time. It's interesting.
Yes. You said alertness as well. Even though you're
Yeah.
calm, you're more alert, perhaps.
Yeah.
Did you notice the heart rate slow a little bit?
Not before you said, but if I pay attention, yes.
You feel it's a calm, the heart rate's calm now, quite calm.
Yes, indeed.
And the mental chatter, people call it the ADHD mind or the monkey mind, sort of racing thoughts. Has that calmed down a bit?
Yeah.
You mentioned you feel an 8 out of 10 earlier. What would you say now?
A 9, 9.5.
Would you say, Patrick, you're in somewhat?
I think close. Like with flow, I feel like I'm losing sense of time. Here, I'm almost like acutely aware of the present. Similar, but a little bit different.
Does it feel pleasant?
Yes.
And given that you just did this as a sample, I think for the
Yes.
just 60 seconds, was that quite fairly surprising?
Yes.
And do you get and sort of people that we help quite a lot of people with their sleeping issues and insomnia and so on. Do you see how this can help a person drift off to sleep? Do it just before bed. Do you get a sense of could?
Potentially, although I would have really felt this was even better for the morning when you're kind of groggy and not wanting to wake up. I could feel this really kind of in a good way wakes you up as well. But maybe worth trying before sleep too.
I think when you do it slowly, a
Yeah.
bit slower perhaps over the time,
Makes sense.
you tend to drift off. And they usually stay asleep for 5 to 6 hours, which is quite good considering they might have taken melatonin for or zopiclone or other.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It just gives you a compact snapshot to the physiology.
Was it something you picked up in the scriptures that you read from Buddhists, or something you kind of developed yourself?
Well, during the COVID pandemic, a lot of my female coaching clients that I coach in relationships, they were struggling terribly with all kinds of relationships not going well, and they were thinking, is it because of the pandemic? Is it because of me? You know, some women can have terrible low self-esteem issues. And they would always send me all the message trails, and I'd see they're panicking for nothing a lot of times. So I would incorporate the breathing methods like. But the problem was that after the session, they'd go back to their life and they'd get into a panic again because of relationship. And they would call me or have another session and say, I'd say, did it worked, right, last time? And I said, it's not part of my lifestyle. I forgot. And these are doctors and lawyers, right? And even some local level politicians. How can I make it easier for you so that you remember? So now I went to deep dive research to find an easy way. That's just one thing. Easy to remember, rhythmical and soft and gentle, but has a big impact. So this is what they use. Because otherwise, if you tell them to do lots of things, they.
Yeah. So I can see it would be really interesting to run some research together at some point, maybe in the future once we have bigger, because as you may know, like with psychological side, they made a big study with Huberman and others in Stanford, and they found really one of the biggest alleviation stress using that like double and then you exhale. And in a way, there's a lot of similarities here, but you could argue it could go deeper with the three times. So let's see if it's true. But anyway, really appreciate it. Thank you for that.
No, Patrick, you made a very good point there, because we've done that test. Those who don't follow all the Stanford research and Huberman, we've done that, and we've done the 3, and we say which one feels better to you.
Yeah,
and we say the 3 because it's deeper, it's quicker, and it's a nice gentle rhythm. It's easy. So it's almost like the subconscious mind. It doesn't take much training. It's just done.
Super interesting. And just by the way, to go to the nitty gritty here, like, is it important to activate diaphragm when you're doing that, like 3, or doesn't it matter as much?
That's a fascinating question, because we've trained elderly people. They could be 70 and they have difficulty sitting up straight, but they still get a lot of relief. So it's more about the rhythm and just having your spine relatively straight, or even if you're lying in. So the diaphragm, we don't focus on that because a lot of people, unfortunately, they're not really conscious. So when you say diaphragmatic breathing, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, very true.
So our thing is, like, we want to help as many people as possible, even if you know nothing. So I think.
Yeah, no, I actually fully agree. Are there maybe moments when you feel like if you had the choice to, because it sounds like you're doing this partly to maximize the adherence, right? People didn't do something else. And so like, that is the one that feels it's to incorporate, is to remember. So I'm maximizing adherence, which, as we know, is massively important to any intervention that you do. I'm curious, like, if you could alter something slightly to maximize particular outcome, is based on everything you know about breathing and physiology and neurology. Like, what is there anything you would do differently for a specific outcome that comes to mind? Whether it's sleep or sympathetic, or like anything else.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we do, for some of the athletes we work with, we recommend Bhastrika. Bhastrika breathing is bellows breath. So it's quick inhales, exhales through the nose to get a quick rush of energy and self-regulation. But for most people who are not athletes, who are not trained, who are execs, who are stressed, who have families, could be elderly, could be young, could be children with ADHD, for example. So we train with a lot of them. We slightly increase the pace for the 3-3. And what seems to be working really, really well is for sleep and people who are elderly and for children, why does it work so well with children? Because children like something easy to remember. 1, 2, 3, like a choo-choo train. You could say, like a Thomas the Tank Engine or something, like choo-choo, something like that. And you can turn it into a game, make it gamified a bit, so it's easy.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And as you mentioned, it's kind of because the pace can be altered in a way. It's one exercise that can be turned into multiple different ones, depending on what you want. So I think we did it pretty fast, right? It was definitely quite invigorating. I can imagine being different if it was much slower.
Yes, exactly. I like your questions because you're very into the science.
Maybe just zooming out to look at the field of longevity, which you've looked into quite detailed, in not just in breathing, but also wider than that. I'm curious, like, what are some of the myths you see that you'd like to comment on? Like anything that's kind of pervasive that you feel is maybe not helpful for people? Any myths?
Yeah, there's a couple of major points that are really key. I think people underestimate the positive. I think they think that it's optional. And I have to say from all the studies and research and my own experimentation on myself and from being friends, I have to say it's unfortunately. I wish I could say, yeah, I can think whatever I want. It has no impact. So having a positive mindset is very important to keep your body cells joyful and activated and energetic. Because a depressed person, if you look at a depressed person, their shoulders are hunched, they're looking down, they're looking haggard, they're looking older. But why? So thoughts have a very powerful quality about them. So you must try to keep a positive thought stream, plus the breathing, plus exercise, and if you can, a plant-based diet. Maybe not fully, it could be omnivore, flexitarian, but try your best to move towards a bit more of a diet. And those, if you can nail breath, positive exercise, you're going to be on the way to optimization.
Yeah, I can see what I mean. What about like, how much do you think it's personality based? How much can you change that if you're kind of negative Nelly most of your life? When they come to you, are you able to then somehow shift their mindsets in like a period of time?
That's a beautiful question. That's a great question. And I think what has to happen is there has to be a deep dive. Like, how willing are you to analyze yourself to see how you're causing your own happiness?
Take ownership.
Yeah, that's why we love working with people who have that positive mindset and say, look, you can carry on like that, but this is likely what's going to happen based on these examples. Or you could slightly improve it a little bit, and this is what's more like. So you've got to give them contrast. Otherwise, they think they're right. And ego is ego. It's like they don't know until they're shown clearly. So yeah, it can be done. It can be done. Personality can.
Raj, before we start wrapping up, I wanted to move at least for a bit to the world of the esoteric. It's interesting how like you've both looked into the research and the physiology, like quite deeply, biology, and yet you also talk about metaphysics and like things that at least for now aren't kind of proven out. I'm just curious for yourself, how do you reconcile two views into the world? You kind of care about the science and at the same time you see this like other world beyond science. How do you reconcile that?
Well, it's good. I mean, they'll often ask me and they'll say, are you religious? Yeah. Are you spiritual? Are you metaphysician? Are you neuroscientist? Are you AI? Do you incorporate AI? Are you behind the times because you're too religious? But what about AI then? Much at the cutting edge. Because in fact, if you look, to answer your question, and then we can,
Sure.
the underpinning of everything, and I mean everything in the universe, is consciousness. Again, it comes back to these two, consciousness and energy. So, it's a question of bringing all of these things into the current moment and understanding who you are. What are you? Do you even know what a human is? What is the mind? In school, you go through all these years of education, PhD level, master's level. You never get 1 hour of instruction about what. Why is that?
Because we don't know the answer.
Well, after all these thousands of years of education, surely they should have asked that question, brought it into the curriculum
Hmm.
in the Eastern philosophies, like just to broaden that
Yeah.
topic. In India, they have a different way. They have a guru who's very wise, and all the children sit around the guru in a circle, and they imbibe energy from the atmosphere and listen to the wisdom of the guru. That who are you? What are you first? Your identity. Who are you? So this is how when people ask, how do you know so much about so many things? See, they're not separate things. They're already one, but you haven't accessed that one. So you think everything that's the it's a, so if people love the Matrix and this, try to understand what they're really saying in this stuff.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. I've been for the last few weeks about this. I have this app which prompts me, and you can set whatever you want to be a prompt. And the recent one I've had for the last couple of weeks has been, who is experiencing this? And it's just like meant to ask yourself, like, okay, who is actually looking at the screen right now? And it's been an interesting one to delve into. Awesome. Well, Raj, thank you so much for the insight and being very transparent about the work and also what's behind it. Where can people find more about the work you do and maybe get in touch if they want to get deeper into the work?
Sure. So people can go to the 3-3 insomnia hack because of the big drive to help people with sleeping disorders and insomnia. So 33insomniahack.com or keepfitkingdom.com. They can ask questions, read testimonials, watch video testimonials. We're contactable on WhatsApp. There's a program on there they can buy. It's like £69, I think. Gives you access to everything. And then if you want to take your journey of transformation deeper, we could do.
Great. And you're active on TikTok, KeepFit Kingdom, or what's the handle there? Yeah.
Yeah, KeepFit.
Awesome. We'll definitely link everything in the description. But for now, Raj, thank you for being on the pod. Have a lovely rest of the week. And for everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. And see you again soon.
See you soon.